Well, good morning and welcome to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and this is my twice weekly webcast. I'm a couple of minutes late this morning, for which I do apologise. I somehow lost track of the time, and suddenly the pips were going off on the BBC, and I suddenly realised I should have been online already. But anyway, here I am. Good morning to Christine, who's looking in. Once again, we've got a fairly packed show for you today. We'll be talking about Harrow Council launching a crackdown on illegally parked fast food delivery bikes, which will no doubt please some. West Somerset Police are stepping up patrols to combat antisocial riding, another force that's tackling that problem. Paris is installing the first sound radar, which will target noisy bikes and cars. There are new standards for APNR readable number plates, which come into force. They'll be fitted to new vehicles from March. We'll have a quick look at the new Yamaha World Raid. It's a sort of upgraded Tenere. We'll have a look at that, and an underground storage for your bike, which you can then park it safely in. And then today's discussion point, it'll be a follow-up to the trading standards action on CE approved clothing, or rather non-CE approved clothing, at the London Bike Show last weekend. So settle yourselves down for the next 30 odd minutes and stay with me, Kevin Williams, as I take you through news and views. We've got Nigel and Kevin also looking in this morning. Good to see you both. Now, let's just kick off. It's bit of a grey morning outside at the moment. It's quite breezy, but I hope everybody survived the week's two named storms intact. You'll probably be well aware, I'm sure, that after Storm Dudley, Storm Eunice ripped across the south of England on Friday. We had some pretty strong winds for an hour or so here. It was windy all day, but they really picked up around about 12 o'clock. Fortunately, the only damage here was to a couple of bike covers. One was mine, one was my neighbour's. They were both ripped to shreds, so I will need to dig out the couple of spares I've got and fit them to those two bikes. I'll cover my neighbour's up because he's away in Italy at the moment. But there was a lot of damage in the area. Some houses actually lost their roofs not very far from here, Kilburn Park. The peak winds were created by something called a sting jet, if you're interested in the meteorology of it. It's explosive cyclogenesis. I did a bit of meteorology as part of one of my degrees. So I do know a little bit about this. 120 mile per hour winds hit the Isle of Wight, and gusts of 80 miles per hour were recorded well inland too. So it was a fairly strong storm. And don't think it's all over, because Storm Franklin is arriving. Now, this will track further north, but it's still expected to bring gale force winds, and some meteorologists are predicting 100 mile per hour gusts in exposed areas. The Met Office certainly issued amber warnings for winds from Sunday lunchtime right through till Monday afternoon, and these will extend actually down from the northwest of England right down across Wales, the Midlands, and right across the south from Cornwall to Kent. The other thing to watch out for is that there are amber alerts for rain, and there are a large number of flood alerts as the rain will fall onto already saturated ground after a pretty dry January. The garden here is actually a bog. We have a little lake forming in it. Right, okay, so that's the weather forecast out of the way. So let's crack on with some of the news. Right, the first story to report, Harrow Council are actually launching a crackdown on fast food delivery riders who park illegally in the borough. Now, not surprisingly, demand for fast food spiked during the pandemic, but it's been matched by an increase in residents' complaints over delivery drivers blocking roads and paths when they are picking up and dropping off orders. The council said that the number of fast food deliveries went up by almost a quarter during the pandemic, with 1 in 12 people using a home takeaway service for the first time. But the council is working positively. They're working with businesses and the police to create designated town centre parking areas where delivery riders can wait for pickups. But the council enforcement officers will also be patrolling the town centre to ensure the new rules are being followed. Now, Councillor Pemana Assad, who's the lead on community cohesion, crime and enforcement. Boy, they do like to give themselves some titles, don't they? At Harrow Council, he said, "We don't want to stop anyone doing their job, but we need to ensure the safety of everyone using the town centre. We've worked with the delivery companies to make sure riders are aware of where they can wait safely, so paths are clear for visitors and those at home still get their takeaways. Everyone wins." Harrow already has a borough-wide public spaces protection order, which actually bans driving over curbs and grass verges and onto pavements. Those who break the rules could be given a £100 fixed penalty notice, and that could rise to a total of £1,000 if left unpaid or there are repeat offences. The council's urging residents to report instances of nuisance parking by delivery riders via its website. And frankly, I'll be surprised if this initiative is not followed by other councils in fairly short order. Okay, we've got Nigel, Kevin, and Paul all looking in as well. So don't forget, you are tuned to Elevenses with Kevin Williams here of Survival Skills. And this show goes out live at 11 on Sundays and Wednesdays. Very occasionally I have to do a recorded show, but generally speaking, you'll find I'm on air live. Okay, what else is under view by the police? Well, it's antisocial motorcycling behaviour by so-called off-road motorcyclists in the Minehead and West Somerset area. There have been a number of reports of motorcycles being illegally ridden off-road in West Somerset recently, and police in the area are promising that they will be stepping up patrols. And a spokesman for the police team reminded riders that motorcycles are not allowed to be used on footpaths or bridleways. Those are for walkers and horse riders. And if riding off-road, motorcyclists must have the permission of the landowner to ride there. Open land does not mean all vehicles allowed. And he reminded riders, we have the ability to take action against motorbikes which do not follow the law. Right, so if you have any questions, any comments, I'm always happy to hear them. If you want to give me feedback on the show, that's also welcome, and comments for a future show as well. If you've got anything you'd like me to cover, I'm more than happy to try and have a look at that. Just drop me a line through the comment stream. Now, over in Paris, it's been shown to be one of Europe's noisiest cities. That's based on data from the European Environment Agency. And unfortunately, it's well known that in Paris, one of the big sources of unreasonable noise from vehicles is actually motorcycles. Like a number of other locations, including London, Paris is taking aim at noisy bikes and cars with sound radars. Now, these have already been installed in the Ile-de-France region, which is the region that actually surrounds Paris, and they're also already installed in Nice and Lyon. They went in earlier this year. But the first that's to be installed in the French capital itself went up on a street lamp in the 20th district on Monday the 14th. Valentine's Day, I believe, wasn't it? It's all part of a plan to fine the drivers and riders of illegally loud vehicles automatically, because right now, although the drivers and riders can be fined, police need to actually catch the vehicle in the act, as it were, and stop the rider, driver, and ticket them there and then. The noise radar will first of all be on trial to determine whether it reliably can detect the noise level of a passing vehicle, and then it'll whether it can snap the number plate reliably too. And the idea is that these devices will be officially approved by authorities by the end of 2022. So for the moment, no fines are being issued, but should the trial become successful, then Paris does plan to bring noise radars into full operation from early 2023, and the fines will go out automatically. And the national government of France also plans to deploy noise radars in other French cities. The idea is to fine loud vehicles, all vehicles. It's not just targeting motorbikes, said Christophe Midlicki. He's the technical director for the Paris Sound Quality Watchdog. Right, okay. The next story will affect you if you're thinking about buying a new vehicle from 1st of March or getting a replacement number plate. Now, you'll know that from 1st of March, the new 22 tag will be on registration plates, just so everybody knows you're driving a brand new bike or car. But what you might not know is that number plates will be made to a new version of the British standard for retroreflective number plates. It goes from the BSAU 145D to BSAU 145E. Why, you may be wondering? Well, the previous standard has been in force since 2001, and the updated standard basically uses revised technical standards to provide for easier recognition by ANPR cameras. The material used in the plates has actually been checked from 36 different camera angles to ensure it's readable. And the plates themselves are made of a tougher material, which makes them more resistant to abrasion and other damage, so that they remain in good condition and readable for longer after they've been fitted too. Now, the size and shape of the plates themselves won't change, but to make them easier to read, the characters will now only be solid black lettering. The fancy fonts, which have been used to create the effects known as carbon, highline, and 3D, are now banned. It'll still be legal to use screw fittings, but now it's recommended that the plate is left fully intact and that it's attached by means of adhesive pads. Now, it's illegal to sell non-conforming number plates. It actually carries a fine of up to £5,000, so it's a fairly hefty whack if somebody is making illegal number plates. It's also a legal requirement, and this is something I didn't know, for all companies that intend to sell or supply number plates to the public to be registered with the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency, DVLA. New number plates will also have to include the supplier's business name. DVLA, it should be DVSA, shouldn't it? They've been merged. The new number plates will have to include the supplier's name and postcode, along with the name of the number plate manufacturer. Although, frankly, I have to say it's hard to see how that will crack down on suppliers with illegal number plates, because they simply won't put their information on them. It's also useful to know that rearranging the numbers or letters on the plate by shifting the space is illegal. That can attract a fine of up to £1,000 for the user, as can riding around with a broken, cracked, faded, or even just plain dirty number plate. If it obscures the letters and numbers, it is illegal. And as a friend of mine has been riding around for some years on a modern Triumph with a black and white number plate, that is also illegal and could also attract that fairly serious hit to your wallet. And last thing, the so-called green number plates aren't actually green, just in case you were wondering. They just have a green strip on the left-hand side of the plate, and they are intended to help identify all electric vehicles for policing purposes. All right, okay, so don't forget, set a reminder to grab this show. It goes out Wednesdays and Sundays, as I already mentioned, at 11 o'clock. If you miss it, you can catch up here on Facebook, of course, or you can head over to my YouTube channel, which is Survival Skills UK. Don't forget the all-important UK on the end, or you won't find me. And that has all the old Elevenses shows. If you're a visitor today, if you're your first time here and you haven't seen the previous two shows on the Sundays preceding this one on CE clothing, that it might be worth tracking back to those and having a look to see what I was talking about. Right, just a few other people looked in. Paul's looked in. Paul Varnes, very good to see Paul. I shall be finishing off the report on CE later as we go on. Nick has also looked in, and Tony Surridge has looked in. He says all those number plate regulations have been in place since 2001, except for the green plates. That's not my understanding of it, Tony. That's why I produced the story. There is a technical specification update from D to E, and that has just come in. So the 2001 regulation involved the D update to the BS standard. The E update has just come in, and it will apply to all new vehicles, as I say, from March, or replacement plates. So that is why I covered that particular story. All right, okay, so if the Africa Twin isn't enough for you, Tony says recommended, not a law. Again, I think if you check the regulations, I think you'll find it is a must. It is not a recommendation. The law has just changed. Right, okay, so where was I? Yeah, if you are sort of interested in overlanding bikes, there's obviously the Africa Twin. There are various other machines available, but one of the popular ones that's appeared on the market recently is the Tenere 700. It's kind of a middleweight bike. It's a reasonably manageable machine, but if it's not desert racery enough for you, then the bike has had some serious tweaks to become the World Raid from Yamaha. Here it is. There's a picture of the bike itself. It's said to be the best equipped Tenere yet, and it's also said to aim to impress. With a state-of-the-art chassis, optimal ergonomics, and a design inspired by rallying. And you'll also notice it gets a fairly huge petrol tank. Now, it was unveiled as a concept bike at the Milan show back in the autumn, but the first production bikes are due to arrive soon. They should be in dealers by the end of May, and they come at a not inconsiderable price of £11,600 plus the usual add-ons. The engine remains unchanged, but the World Raid does get a new three-piece aluminium engine guard, which you can see there, and it gets improved ground clearance too due to revised suspension. You get fully adjustable and uprated front suspension with 20 more millimeters of travel over the standard bike. The rear shock gets a similarly longer stroke and different spring rate, and the linkage ratio has also been adjusted, and you get damping characteristics have been changed as well. And it's fully adjustable rear shock. Other changes: the seat's flatter to allow the rider to shift their weight around on the bike and stand up more easily. The rear section of the seat is split, and it can be removed, so a luggage rack could be mounted there. And the foot pegs are also broader, and the rubber inserts are removable to make the bike more manageable whilst standing. You also get an Öhlins steering damper standard. The airbox has been redesigned with a forward-facing air intake to avoid sucking up dust from the rear wheel. You get higher fairing sides, and there are also removable side deflectors, all designed to improve wind protection. You get a fully switchable ABS. Mode 1 is fully active. Mode 2 turns it off at the rear. Mode 3 completely deactivates it. And there's a obligatory TFT screen, 5 inches in size, which can switch between displays. The interesting thing is you get a choice between Explorer, Street, and Raid, whereas the last one resembles a road rally book. You get other add-ons. I think there's 4 lights on the bike, but you also get a ginormous fuel tank. The Yamaha certainly don't want you running out of fuel on this. So the bike comes with side-by-side pannier tanks, which are designed to keep the weight of the fuel low. The actual height of the tank is actually slightly lower than the basic Tenere, but obviously it's much wider, and it'll drink up no less than 23 litres when you stick the pump in the top. It gives you a range of no less than 300 miles. That's what's claimed, 500 kilometres. Of course, while you're devouring miles in deepest, darkest Dorset on this bike, you don't want to be cut off from the rest of the world. So your phone can not only stay charged up via the built-in USB port, but the screen can be connected to your mobile via the communication control unit, the CCU, to allow text messages or incoming calls to be displayed whilst you're riding, which is of course just what we need. Fine detail though, the weight is not inconsiderable, 2000, let's try 220 kilograms, which is 485 pounds in old money. Now, astonishingly, given the bike is actually down 2 cylinders and 50 cc's in capacity, that's almost exactly the same weight as my lovely old 1985 FZ 750, which also had a steel frame, and for the record carried almost exactly the same amount of fuel. My FZ weighed in at just 2 kilograms or 5 pounds more fully fueled up. So I have to say I'm fairly astonished that the Tenere is actually bulked up to that extent. Nevertheless, if you've just spent all that money on a new bike, you may be wondering where you can park it securely, particularly if you are short of garage space to park a car and a bike. And so this may be the answer. If I can get the picture up. Here we go. That's the one I'm looking for. There. That is the bolt, as you can probably read on the logo on the side there. Stands for box, bike in a vault, and it's a steel box. It's the brainchild of a Stockton-on-Tees company in England, and the box is buried. The lid that you can see lifted up to the side replaces part of the floor, and when it lifts to the side, it reveals the bike, which is sitting on a platform. When you want to put the bike away, the platform that the bike is sitting on lowers into the box, and the lid then folds neatly back down on top of the box to lock the bike away, but also provide you with a surface that you can walk over without falling into a big hole. With the bike secured underground, the lid can support a maximum of 4 tons. There's a limit of 1.5 tons at any single point. So presumably that means you can safely park a car with one tyre on top of it. However, it's not a quick fit. To dig out the hole for the prototype, the website reports that no less than 15 tons of spoil had to be excavated. So they had to get a digger basically into your garage to do that. Then the base of the hole can be concreted and leveled, obviously, and then the bolt itself can be lowered into the hole and installed so it sits level with the floor, and you can expect installation to take 3 to 4 days. And as you probably guessed, it's not going to come cheap. In fact, the cash situation is that it will cost you something over £24,000 for that hole in the ground. And frankly, that's a lot of money to part one bike, but maybe there are a few people out there who are interested. And right now, orders are being taken with a view to beginning manufacture in mid-April. So if you get your timing right, you can just about get your bolt in place, ready to take delivery of your brand new World Raid Yamaha there. Right, okay, a couple of other comments here. Jeff says stick on number plates. Sounds silly, far too easy to be stolen and swapped. Well, yes, I'd say they're not exactly secure, are they? I've seen, the stick-on pads still attached to the cars and no number plate on them on a number of occasions. It's certainly not something I would do. Tony says, I have made number plates since 1977, so I have to be aware of the laws since then. Okay, Tony, I'm happy to be corrected if you're right. I will point you quite happily off when I finished the show at the references that I used to give you the information that I've given everybody else. So I'll come back to you on that one. Right, okay. Kevin also says that his understanding is the material, spec, font color, and fixing have changed. So there we go. Steven says stick on a fine if done properly. Uh, yeah, it probably depends how long you're stuck on for, doesn't it? I mean, like any sticky pad is going to lose its adhesive properties over a period of time. They're probably all right if you trade the bike or car within a year or two. If it's 25 years old, like my camper, I suspect that they would probably have fallen off by now if they've been sticky. Yes. Okay. So yes, the change of as Kevin says, one of the changes over from the previous D standard is the change of fonts. Right. Okay. So while we move on from the little controversy there about number plates, let's move back to the trading standards intervention at last week's Carroll Nash motorcycle show. I'm just going to wrap up a few points that I didn't have time to do on Sunday or came in after the show was ready to go out. The first thing I'll just mention is I got a bit of a slap for not knowing about the lady-only clothing outlet, Moto Girl. So I will put the record right on that one. Their link is here. If you want to pass that on to any ladies do feel free. I did check out their website to find out what they offer. They're based in Tunbridge, in Kent. They're open Monday to Friday and Saturdays by arrangement. They offer a range of jackets, trousers, and they're rather weirdly spelled dungarees, Dunrgis. That's not how I would spell it, but hey ho, what do I know? But something I immediately noticed about the website, which I can show you here. I'll just put that up absolutely full screen, actually, so you can see that. They make a big thing of the CE standards on their products. I'll just zoom in a little bit on a couple of the garments. Here we go. So you can see clearly the CE label is next to those particular garments, and you can see what the rating is. And if I zoom back out and go up to the top corner, you can see there again, you can quite clearly check just on the sort of index page for their garments that they have leggings there which are AAA and AA rated too. So all their garments clearly are marked. And I'll just draw attention again to the final point I wanted to make here. You can see there that they have a pair of jeans that are A rated, and they also have a pair of jeans there which have no CE marking. Now there's no hunting about there trying to figure out whether their garments are rated or not, as I've had to do on many sites trying to figure out whether or not there is a actually CE approval for a garment. It's there, you can see it, and you can see that the LE jeans aren't rated, and there's no problem with that. If it's old stock that's being cleared out, that's still legal to sell it, at least for the moment. And as you can see from the price there, that's exactly what you appear to be getting, old stock that's being cleared out at a bargain price. For you as the purchaser, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going and buying that. It's just that you know exactly what the standard of the other products actually are. And while I'm talking about giving thumbs up to people, I'll also just mention road skin. There you are. Again, you have a clear piece of description there that says that they are A rated. They don't actually use the CE logo on there, which would possibly make it just a little bit clearer. I think the Moto Girl page there is probably a gold standard for explaining how to display the information that you need. But again, the thing I liked about the Road Skin City A rated jeans is that they actually give you the information that you need. Again, if I just sort of zoom in on the text so you can read it, you can see there that what they're saying is they're perfect for short commutes or local ride outs rather than lengthy, fast journeys. And they actually do recommend the higher rated Easy Rider or Paranoid jeans with a AA or AAA rating for faster road riding. So I think there's absolutely no problem there of understanding exactly what you're getting from those offerings. Now, the something else actually, as an aside, while I was looking at the Road Skin site, I'd happened to notice that the grade of body armor fitted to knee and hip is actually all level 2 stuff as well, which is pretty impressive. They also do casual looking motorbike hoodies with a AA standard, which is pretty good. Again, it comes with level 2 CE body armor. And you can also buy a replacement knee and hip armor kit, which is just £10 and £12 a set, which quite frankly really does suggest that an awful lot of the body armor that you see selling is actually overpriced if that gets a level 2. Anyway, the point I wanted to make was that there was a press release, predictably, from the organisers of the Carol Nash MCN bike show, and it specifically avoided mentioning anything to do with the action by trading standards. It said it was a successful show enjoyed by tens of thousands of visitors, and a great day out was had by all. Obviously, it wasn't a great day from those distributors who turned up with non-approved clothing. Now, if you want to find out rather more about what happened, you can also go on to this particular website, which is the Bennett Social, Bike Social pages. There's a good article written there, which I will definitely recommend you to. I read that on that page that one of the sellers at the show who came to the attention of the trading standards officers for trying to sell non-approved bike kit was a company called Motus Bikeware, and it was apparently their stand that was closed down. Now, I had a quick Google, and I actually turned them up selling or operating from a private address in London. Now, there's nothing wrong with running a business from a private address, but the implication, of course, is they don't have retail premises. I did check their Facebook page because one does turn up for them, but the only post left on the page is their header graphic, which implies that they've removed all social media updates because that dates back to 2015, I think it was. And meanwhile, the website www.motorspikeware.com is hosted on GoDaddy, which is one of the pile 'em high, sell 'em cheap domains, and it's currently blank and up for sale. I used the Wayback Internet Archive actually to check on their store and found that by October the 30th, 2018, it was marked as currently unavailable due to maintenance. It should be available again shortly. Well, clearly it isn't. So effectively, the only way that you can see what their kit is in terms of standards is by going to the people at the counter and looking at the label and asking for advice. So you're really reliant on what they're telling you. There's no way you can check first. And this is just where I want to share a couple of photographs that Paul Varnsbury shared with me earlier. As you recall, he was in a sort of technical support role there for trading standards at the show, and he did send me these pics last weekend, but they came in a little bit too late for me to include in the show. But they do make a good way of rounding off the report. So let me share the first photo again with you. Here it is. Now that is a garment that's sewn into the lining. Now I mentioned last week that somewhere or other I've got a Belstar leather jacket, which dates all the way back from 1995, incidentally, which has a label sewn into one of the seams, which states that it's not considered to be personal protective equipment. And here is a virtually identical label. Let me just zoom in a little bit on it so that you can actually read the wording. There you go. It says this garment is not to be considered a personal protective equipment as defined or within the scope of the PPE EC directive, etc., etc. No liability will be accepted by manufacturer or supplier arising out of the garment's non-compliance with such regulations. Right, okay, so is that legal to put something like that in? Well, Paul comments, a disclaimer label attempting to sidestep the legislation, even though motorcycle clothing was legally categorized as PPE with effect from 21st of April 2018. Now, my understanding is that the retailer can still sell it as a fashion garment, but no claims can be made that it's suitable to wear on a motorcycle, which frankly is a bit difficult to swallow when it's on a stand at a motorcycle show with a lot of motorcycle protective kit all around you. And here's another photo to look at as well. Now, this one's a little bit more tricky to, again, to understand, because this time you're actually looking at what appears to be a CE approval label. But it's actually fake. It's a tag. It's hanging on a bit of string. You can see the string at the top. So it would be hung on the collar, or maybe sort of zip tied to a pocket or something like that. But basically, it would be there for you to read on the new garment. And you would be forgiven for looking at something like that and thinking that it's actually a legit symbol. The label states all over protection, Paul says. This is not in a format prescribed in EN 17092, which states that the garment has met AA classification requirements. And he said basically the garment is not certified and the claim is misleading and false. As Paul also pointed out that the details are wrong. For example, he said the year should read 2016, not 2015, and the legislation's details are incomplete. He said it's a shoddy attempt to mislead buyers. He said it's also an unauthorized use of the SATRA label, the logo of the testing organization. I'll just zoom in a little bit so that you can see that down there in the bottom corner. And he said that it's been reported to the organization for action. So, okay, there we go. So just to round off these three reports on CE, and as I said, if you want to go and find the back two, they're on the previous Sundays. Easiest way to do it is on my YouTube channel. On the plus point, Paul says over 50% of the stands were selling conforming apparel. And as I think I've shown today, small brands like Motogirl and the Roadskin have been able to put their ranges through the approvals process without actually creating garments that break the bank. Now, that's an argument I've heard far too many times from clothing manufacturers who really should be knowing better by now. So whatever the debate about the relative merits of the older level 1, level 2 standard and the newer, I should say, AA, AAA standard, at least as prospective buyers, we get to make an informed choice if we get a legitimate logo hanging from a garment we want to buy. So let's hope that standards people continue to police bike shows and get these garments off the shelf. That's pretty much it for today. Paul says Motogirl's clearly established a benchmark for provision of information that other suppliers should follow. Absolutely, it was beautifully clear and easy to read, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, so we got there. Bin Yan says that's a disclaimer, no different to the Triumph fashion range. Yeah, so it's as Paul said, it's CE approved or caveat emptor, buyer beware. Check what you're buying before you buy it, basically. Right, okay, so that sums up today's show. Don't forget a couple of reminders. First of all, my gift vouchers, my winter vouchers offer is still open for another 10 days or so till the end of the month. Oh no, it's less than 10 days because, of course, there's only 28 days in February, aren't there? But you can pop over to my coffee page and pick up a voucher. Basically, it gives you a discount on a future course, and they can be used till the end of 2022. So you can find out more about how they work there, and that'll take you to the vouchers themselves. And the last two things I want to remind you about are the group riding webcast, which is coming up on the first Wednesday in March, which is Wednesday the 2nd, 8 p.m. in the evening. Here's a link to that. Basically, it's the trouble with ride outs is they can be great fun, but they can also go seriously AWOL. Group riding seriously overrepresented in bike crash stats. So I'll be talking about how to organize a group ride if you've never done it before, or you just want some tips to improve the way your group rides work. And I'll be talking about how to think about attending a group ride as well, and what to look out for, how to protect yourself as you're on one of those rides. And final reminder, if you want to get ahead to the Science of Being Seen, that will go out on the first Wednesday in April. That'll be the full show. That'll be Wednesday the 6th. I seem to have the link is in the header for this item if you want to go and find it. Right, okay, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for tuning in. See you hopefully on Wednesday for another show. The weather is not looking good for the next few days. It's looking like a particularly stormy end to the winter. So if you are riding around out there, do take care and make sure you stay shiny side up.